Hey everybody, happy Tuesday, May 4th. May the 4th be with you. And we are starting off this month's WEN-Talk with a little bit of an interview because I wanted to do a quick feature with Meg Campbell and talking about what she's doing and invite y'all to come and play with us and play with Meg. And showcase all the fun stuff that Meg is doing with her business. So Meg, why don't you explain exactly what you are doing to promote small businesses?
Absolutely. I am Meg Campbell. I'm the host of Look What Meg Found, and my shirt says it all. I am a small business treasure finder. I review, promote, and support small, creative, handmade businesses. So I find their products. I use their products. I tell you my thoughts on their products, how much I love them, things I like, things that I necessarily don't like, but will appeal to other people. I am on a mission to grow small businesses, even if I have to drag them kicking and screaming the whole way with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's kind of an important thing. A lot of times people are like, well, why should I send you a product for free? Why should I, send you that, give you something for free? Why would I do that, Meg?
The reason why you would do that is because I have spent the past year building a reputation online of being the person who knows about small business, not the running of, not the tech behind, but the people that own the businesses. I don't just buy a package and open it and go, oh, look, here's a box that I ordered from here and here's what's in it. I use the products. I live, breathe, and die by my businesses that I promote. I take the time to get to know what their business is. What is the benefit to, what do I have? What's the benefit to using MG12's Magnacalm oil as opposed to any other topical magnesium oil sleep aid? Why is this product important to you?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you need it? Because there's 1,000 social media influencers out there who post beautiful pictures, who buy products or a gifted product, and they do an unboxing and you see the product, but you never hear, what does this product impact in my life?
Mm-hmm.
How does this help you? Why do you need this? So that's what I'm here to showcase for everybody.
And I think that that's really cool.
Yeah.
To me, it's about supporting other small businesses and getting out there, getting them out there, getting them seen, getting them heard, giving them a platform.
And that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give them a platform right now with my YouTube channel and the groups that allow me to live stream and my Facebook page. My reach is about 80,000 people. So I tell people when they ask me, but why would I send it for free?
Mm-hmm.
Look at what it would cost for your advertising to land in the laps of 80,000 people.
Right.
And then look at that versus the price of the cost of product. There we go. How many widgets would you have to sell to reach that many people? Or you send me some stuff and I do what I do. And that's the other thing, is that it doesn't end for me when I shut off the camera.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that I use every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm sitting here looking in my office. I am surrounded by things that other people have made and my own stuff too. But I live and breathe these. I wear the shirts from Sassy Mom Boutique. She also has a business-to-business side. That's where I got my branded wear. I wear her shirts to the point almost daily. It's kind of ridiculous. I wear the clothes that people send me. I use the magnesium products. I live and breathe for my BB's Donkey Milk Soap Company lotion. The stuff does not leave my side. And these are all people that I have discovered on this journey of mine. So I don't just say, oh, it's a bar soap. we love it, and put it down and never touch it again. And the things that I know that aren't going to fit in my life, I know that aren't necessarily an amazing fit, I use them as giveaways. I use things to leverage. Any giveaway I do is linked back to the person who made the product. So I'm not just growing me, I'm growing them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the important thing, right? To me, about this whole thing is the fact that you are growing other people, you're growing their businesses, they're getting seen, they're getting heard. They're going out onto not just lives on Facebook and into a bunch of different groups where they drop to the bottom, but you're going out and you're putting them on YouTube as well and sharing them out over and over and over again.
Yes. And I really do live and breathe my businesses, my clients. I love them. And I mean, I think that that's part of also what sets me apart from other influencers, because that's a word I actually was really resistant to when I first started this. I didn't want to be an influencer, but that's what I am. But I see so many influencers who are in it simply for the paycheck. For the bottom line, pay me to say your stuff is amazing. And that's not why I'm here. That's absolutely not why I'm here. I literally want to see my businesses grow. I celebrate every single sale. I get a message from somebody I've repped and they're like, oh my God, I got a sale. And I want to party right along with them because that means they're growing.
Yeah. Breathe my business. Nice. Yes. And that's what it's for. This is part of why we started the Women's Entrepreneur Network. Part of why we're here. To me, this is a huge part of why we're here, is to support, like truly support small businesses and give them support in a lot of unique and different kinds of ways. And Meg is doing that. So, yeah. So what have been some of your favorite companies that you have reviewed? The first answer is always going to be BB's. I love BB's Donkey Milk Soap, and I can sit here and do a 3-hour speech on why I love them. But again, I take the time to know my products. Donkey milk is as close to human skin pH as you can possibly get in a body care product. So people who have itchy skin that's constantly itchy, try it. It's going to, after a few washes, clear it up. And I say this and people go, why do you say this publicly? But I do. For 20 years, I've had an itchy scalp. Not dandruff, not an issue. It just itches. So I have switched to using BB's shampoo bar, and that is gone. I no longer want to scratch my head constantly. And that is the magic of finding these little bitty treasures that no one knows. And it's really good on your hair too.
Oh my God, it is. My hair is night and day different than what it was. I'm looking in my office. I can lay my hands on.
My hairdresser was like, what have you done to your hair? And I'm like, why? And she's like, because it's not frizzy anymore.
Yes. This is a piece from a personal friend of mine. This is Wattle Tree Designs. She's fabulous, but she does these Tree of Life pieces. And she's very good about listening to what it is that you want and making pieces that are tailored to you. Not to, I liked the purple, so I went with the purple. This particular tree, I have a blank spot on my wall in my office. And I was like, I need something bright that's not going to blend into the gray. And I was like, it's all yours. Just make me something bright and pretty. And she nailed it. Absolutely.
That is so pretty. I love the differences in the colors. I'm one of those people who really appreciates good texture on texture and layering.
Yes. And she's so good at it. Let's see. I'm still looking around my office. We have Layla. Layla is my unicorn, who's not going to be my unicorn for long because anybody who follows me knows I have an 11-year-old who believes that anything is mine is hers. She's already claimed that when Layla is done sitting on my counter, Layla belongs to her. But the quality of crocheted things matter when you buy crocheted products. And with toys, you see what I'm sitting here doing. I'm squishing her. With toys like Layla, you have to assume that kids are going to be rough on them. These
and
are
put them in their mouths. And
kids. You're going to be chewed on. Their legs they're going to be drug around by their legs, drug around by their arms. And craftsmanship wise, Layla is not going to come apart when she's pulled on. She is, her mane is not going to come off when kids grab it and pull on it because it's a corkscrew. I'm an adult and I know better, but I still bounce these because it's fun. This is the quality of craftsmanship on Layla is amazing. And she's squishy, but when you squish her, she bounces right back. Mm-hmm. She doesn't stay flat, which when you're dealing with toys, you don't want them to get flat. You want
what kind of thread is she made of, too? I'm going to make a point.
She's completely acrylic.
Right.
She's designed for kids, so she is kid friendly. She can be washed.
She's washable.
She can be dried. When she shares someone's lunch and wears more of it than they do, it's fine because she's cleanable. Mm-hmm. Now, Marcia does a lot of things that also are much more adult oriented, but I like the squishies. I'm not going to lie.
I do like squishies. Show me the macrame behind you.
Oh, yes. This doubles as my earring holder because I got to find a better place to put it on the wall. This is from Macrame. I am never going to outgrow the kind of gypsy boho lifestyle, and I love this piece. But here's another thing. Macrame is a technical skill to get the knots placed, to get the knots to hold and be evenly spaced. That takes so much skill. And yeah, I'm a huge raving fan of macrame as well. There isn't a client that I have worked with that I don't become a raving fan of. Macrame also did these bracelets. And these, I don't leave the house without these. But not only does she do the macrame, these are all semi-precious stones that all have a purpose. This one's hematite. This is rainbow hematite, which I had never come across before. And then the purple one is her chakra balancing bracelet.
So pretty.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Yeah, no, I love the, the handmadeness of it. I actually do, I send out little gifts from us periodically to clients and stuff. And I was asking in the group kind of recently about, what are some, good ideas for, little gifts. And I was kind of surprised that so many people are like, yeah, Starbucks gift card. And I'm like, okay, from my personal perspective, there's nothing wrong with Starbucks because I'm sitting here sipping on Starbucks. But I'm probably not going to do as much of that just because Starbucks is not a small business. I'm not supporting a small business when I'm doing stuff from Starbucks. I'd rather go find, the BB's Donkey Milk Soap or the, the handmade, notebooks and cards and other things that are consumable that, I'm supporting a small business when I'm buying from them.
And you've heard my entire speech on that. When it comes to anything like that, you're better off putting that $20 into the pocket of a small business owner who's just trying to buy groceries or put their kid in dance class or pay for their kids' athletic program. Then you are funding Starbucks. And I'm not knocking Starbucks, Walmart, any of the big box stores. I'm just saying that you do more good at the lower levels of small business. More of that money goes back into the community that we're all trying to support if you purchase from small business. And that's, I stand on that bandwagon. That is my soapbox. And that is just it for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of numbers that basically will corroborate that and support that where, money that you give to a small business owner, serves a multiplier effect in the community.
Yes.
And it blows up numbers tremendously. I mean, there's a lot of different statistics, the percentage of dollars that stay in the community, the multiplier effect, et cetera, et cetera. So like for each dollar in the community, it generates X number of percentage of, multipliers. And that's part of why, I believe so strongly in, well, I'm going to put money back into small local businesses. Now, they may not always be local to me,
Yes.
but they are going to be small businesses.
Yes. And that was a mind shift for me. And I don't know why it was, because I mean, outside of Look What Meg Found, I'm also a small business owner on a handcrafted business. And it never resonated with me when I heard people say that, until I realized that I needed people to pay my bills for me. You know,
you needed people to buy your stuff so that you could pay your bills.
Pay bills. And now that I have, I guess, walked that life as an adult, that's where Look What Meg Found came from, is that other people need that same support. And it came from a nice shove off a cliff from a really good friend of mine too.
I don't know how that could have happened.
I had no idea. What, baby?
Aw, the princess has arrived.
The princess has arrived. The boss is here. We can work now.
Yeah, of course. So introduce the boss, will you?
This is Izzy. Izzy is the boss of me. She hates when I put her on camera.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, this is my little companion. She hangs out with me all day, every day when I work.
She's adorable.
You're adorable. Did you know that?
She is adorable, and she's certain of it, and she knows it exactly. So how does somebody go about getting in touch with you or finding you or seeing some of the reviews you've done online?
The easiest way to find the reviews is to hop over to YouTube and just type in Look What Meg Found, and it will bring up my channel. The current pinned video on my channel, in case anybody wants to know, is a giveaway when we reach 1,000 subscribers. So make sure you hit subscribe if you hop over to the channel, and make sure you watch that video and follow the instructions to be entered to win. And if you just want to have a conversation with me, the easiest way to get me is to email me at meg@lookwhatmegfound.com. And that is the email that I check most regularly. And it's the one that's connected to my phone, so it'll alert me when I have an email, so I will know that I need to get back to you.
Awesome. Thank you for hopping in today. I appreciate it.
Always.
I'm glad you were able to join and hang out with us today.
Absolutely.
So cool. So now I'm going to play the wonders of technology, and I'm going to bop Meg down and introduce our next speaker. Hello. How's it going? You need to unmute yourself.
Sorry. It's going well. How are you?
I am doing great. I am doing just fine. Welcome. Welcome, Teasha. I'm so glad to have you here.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
This is fun. So I would love for you to introduce yourself, and I am going to minimize myself off the screen.
Okay.
And people will be able to hear you and see you.
Okay, sounds great. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's an honor to be on this platform. Thank you so much, Haley, for the invitation. It is so amazing to be here. I am, as you said, Teasha Janae from Columbus, GA. And I am the founder and CEO of TBLV Management Group, where we teach people the truth about what we were taught to believe about building legacies and living victoriously. Now, I could go on and on and on for days about who I am, what I do, and why I do what I do. But just to kind of summarize a little bit about what TBLV Management Group does is, we are a management company of many, many different moving parts. My children are youthpreneurs. My husband is a chef. I actually write books, and I help other people write books, and the list could go on and on and on. I am also the founder of Step Into Your Power, which is a ministry and a movement. And it's also a book. We're working with women and young girls from the ages of 10 all the way up to, I think the oldest is 65. So we're bridging gaps. We're breaking generational curses. We're doing a lot with this movement to help other women and young girls build their confidence and, step out on faith and do what God has called them to do. And I say all of these things to say, just to let you know that we are about winning and empowerment and growth and confidence. And so what I like to talk about is how you wake up and you step up and you win with the power that's within you, right? So I'm also an author of 2 books. One of them, well, both of them are Wake Up Winning, No Matter What, because losing is not an option, volume 1 and volume 2. And in these books, we talk about building that winner on the inside of you, right? And so what we want you to understand is that every day that you wake up is a new day to win and just do whatever you were called to do. Just, once you understand what that gift is on the inside, you will love to wake up every morning to just get started. Once you put your feet on the ground, you just get going. Now, it's not easy all the time, right? And I can totally agree and understand why it's not easy, because I am that introvert. I love to talk, but I'm an introvert, right? So what I want to talk to you guys about is a couple things today. And just to let you know that being an introvert has caused a lot of issues with striving in entrepreneurship for me, because I was that person that loved to be in the background. I will work and do everything for everybody in the background, and was good at what I do, everything that I do. And I'm, I tell people all the time, I tell you a secret, I should have been a Jamaican, because I have so many jobs that I do. I do hair. I help you with a weight loss journey, and you can't tell right now, right? Because I've gained weight. However, these are all the things that I've done on my journey through entrepreneurship, where, we tend to just try. So we are tripreneurs. But I want to encourage somebody today that you never give up. You never give in, right? You always keep going. Our stories and our testimonies our test becomes testimonies. And we need to focus on telling those stories, because not only does it heal us, but it also allows us to take another step. And that goes back to my topic of discussion: wake up, step up, and win in power. So every day when you open your eyes, you got to know that there's somebody out there who couldn't open their eyes today. That's a blessing in disguise, right? And that's our first blessing of the day. And so when we wake up in the morning, we want to begin to focus on what I need to do for that day. We want to write down, we want to meditate, we want to write our plans out. And I'm Christian, so I'm, I don't push nothing off on anybody, but I do, want to let you know I am a Christian. So I am about biblical principles. And in Habakkuk 2:2-4, it talks about writing the vision and making it plain upon tables, that he who read may run it. And so whether you're a Christian or not, you are at a position where if you just write down what it is that you want to set your mind to do, and you put it up in front of you every morning. It can be on your ceiling when you lay in your bed. It can be on your mirror when you brush your teeth and wash your face in the bathroom. It could be on the door as you walk out. Something to encourage you, to inspire you, to motivate you to keep going, because tomorrow's not promised, right? And so what we want to focus on is writing down those things that we are called to do. When it comes to our mind, putting it on paper confirms and solidifies a lot of things. And the reason being is because out of sight, out of mind. So you want to keep it in plain sight. That's something that I love to tell those who I coach, because when we understand different steps that we can make to better our entrepreneurship journey, to level up in business, to just be the best version of ourselves, we have to sometimes encourage ourselves, build that confidence level on the inside of us, because sometimes we look for other people to pour into us, to tell us we're doing a good job, but that's not going to always be the case. People are watching you. They are seeing what you're doing and they want to be involved, but some people don't know how to be involved. Some people may want to participate, but they may be hesitant because of the way that they grew up and the things that they've encountered. And I'm only speaking from experience because that was me. However, when you surround yourself, the other step, surround yourself with people that are like-minded, people that are doing things that you want to do. If you are a podcaster, which we have a podcasting platform on the radio for podcasters, and we allow people to get out there and just do, just talk about whatever topics that will help people to win. And so the Winners Connection, TWC podcast radio is a platform for winners like you and I, so that we can go out there and just be the better version of ourselves. Sometimes it takes that alter ego to just come out and get that word out. Like I said, I'm an introvert, but when you put me in front of people that I can inspire or motivate or encourage to do things, that introvert goes out the window, right? So also know that introverts can make a lot of money. So if you're like me and you're kind of hesitant and you want to sit back and be in the background, just know that you have the gift, you have the power, you have the authority on the inside of you and the talent to do what God has called you to do, right? So we want to, again, put ourselves in a place of people doing what it is you want to do. When you see them winning, you like, man, if they can do it, I can do it. And, when we start to feel that sense of jealousy, because jealousy is pretty bad in the entrepreneurship world, because we wonder how they get to do it and we don't. But their mindset is the number one thing that can make them or break them in business. So when you fix your mindset to say, I am powerful, I am winning, I can do all things, you put those things up on those windows and on those doors, and you remind yourself of what you have to do for that day. Those reminders will help you to unlock so much power on the inside of you and build that confidence so that you can go out and do what you need to do, right? So you want to also strategize. That goes back to writing the vision and making it plain. You want to write a strategic plan of action for each thing that you want to do. And one thing that I teach in my finance course is that we talk about strategizing. We talk about planning. With every area in your life, there should be a strategy. Okay? Whether it's your finance, whether it's a talk, whether it's mowing a lawn, you got to have a strategic plan. How am I going to focus on this budget to make other things happen with our money? How with writing a book, how do I want that book to flow? Whatever your journey is, you want a strategic plan. Starting with the end in mind is how I go about doing this. And what you do is you find out what it is that you want to accomplish with your goal. And then you break it down to small, attainable goals, so it's not so overwhelming for you to accomplish. And then you'll say, you know what, I can do this. And you put a date on it. Putting a date on things will also help you to focus and have that tunnel vision to reach that goal on time and in a timely fashion. We want to build our success around strategies. It makes things so much easier to flow. the right way. And we can't be silent. That's the other thing. No more silent agents, right? We sit back and we are so quiet because we're introverts, right? And we want to win, but we don't know how. They're like, oh, they're so loud, they're bold, they're unapologetic about who they are, and I'm just sitting back and just observing. No, it's time out for that. What we need to do is tap into that other part of us that wants to win, that wants to step up and level up in business. And when you tap into that, then you become the person who you were called to be without feeling like you're stretched or that you're overwhelmed or what have you. So that all goes back to strategizing and building that confidence level and changing our mindsets, writing things down, never giving up, and tell your story. Nobody can tell your story like you can tell your story, right? Nobody knows you like you know you. And so when you have that testimony and you figure out what it is, you tell that testimony. That's what breaks the ice. In telling that testimony, you become this powerhouse of authority. And, a lot of people think that, we have to get a degree, and nothing's wrong with a degree at all, because I'm going back for my master's. But you don't need a degree to certify yourself in the area of where you are supposed to be. Your actions that you take on a day-to-day basis, the things that you've done, whether you're a mother of 5 or 6 or 7, like I have a bunch of children, right? You're a mother. You can help other mothers with different things that you've accomplished, or you've reached goals with your family. Now you became an expert in your industry, and you don't need a certificate to teach that. So tap into what that is for you and make it work. See, the problem with us is that sometimes we want to do things that other people are doing instead of staying in the lane of where we're supposed to be, right? And so once we stay where we're supposed to be, then everything flows naturally. You can do it in your sleep. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort when it's something that you have been called to do. Now, as I go through this, I do want to speak about a couple tips that I wrote in my book that I think is pretty darn awesome, right? Okay. If I do say so myself. So in our book, we talked a lot about, what are some tips that we can give to someone that could encourage them to keep winning regardless of their current situations. And so that's what we're talking about. We're talking about waking up and winning. We're talking about stepping into our power. And so in order for you to unlock that winner in you, and here are some 3 tips that I have, and I won't read everything, but dream big, dream bigger, and then write it down. Now, I just said that. Write the vision and make it plain. With vision comes provision. The more you write, the more the provision manifests in your life. Sometimes, being human, we think our dreams are big when our limiting beliefs of what we can cause us to do just enough. That's all we do. It causes us to do just enough to get by. But we have the power and authority to do way more than our limiting beliefs. So being a believer of what it is that you put on that paper, you say, I am, I can, I hope to do, or I will do. These are things that you want to speak it as if it is already. I am. Okay. And so we consciously don't even understand how we use the inner me more than we know to sabotage our way out of being great. So we want to not sabotage ourselves or others, because we do that without even knowing that we're doing it. We put our own limitations on what we can accomplish, and that's because of those limiting beliefs. Take action by creating a winning habit. What is something that you do daily that can be habitual? There are things that we do that are habitual that is not good, right? And we'll constantly do it every day. So for instance, if you like to eat, I'm a foodie, I love food, and I will eat the food that I'm not supposed to eat, but then I'm expecting a different result in my weight loss journey. Well, that's not going to happen, right? So when you know what your end result is, you do differently to receive a different result. So that's what they say insanity is, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting something different. Well, we're not doing that, right? And the last thing is, oh goodness, keep learning and don't be afraid to fail. When we fail, we need to start using that failure as a stepping stone to build them up so that we can climb them. When we fail, we now know what not to do the next time. So when we do it again, we can surpass that failure level and then keep going. There's so much gifts and talents on the inside of you guys. I'm so excited. I want to see everybody win. I want to see everybody step into their power. I want to see that you are learning from any mistakes that you think you made in business. And if you haven't, you can reach out to people that are winning. And so I'm just excited to be able to tell you these little tips that help me as an introvert and a serial entrepreneur, and hope that it helps someone that's listening on today.
Thank you so much. This has been awesome. I'm so happy to have had you here. Thank you, Teasha.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And by the power of the internet, I'm going to try to swap people around, and let's do this. Thank you for joining us. And yeah, let's give her some love and appreciation. And welcome to the stage, Melissa.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I am great. How are you, Haley?
I am doing amazing. Thank you. I am just so honored and thrilled to have you here and speaking for this. And I can't wait to hear more about what you are going to speak about today. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. And listening to her before me was really great because it kind of segues. It's nice to see how women build each other up, and what she just taught were amazing tips. So I'm kind of going to go along with that. So awesome. Today, what I'm going to talk about are the 6 steps to self-esteem and empowerment. And I am putting a timer on just in case I try to overtalk. But I want to talk to you ladies about things that make us feel like shit every day. Society wants to make us feel fat. Abusive partners affect our sense of self-worth. We have got being a parent, right? And there's so much pressure. You want to be a good parent. You want to raise these amazing people to be productive members of society. And of course, we're dealing with all of the past trauma that we've been through, all of the things that we've had to endure, suffer, and get over to be able to be who we are today. And then add this past year, and it's hard, right? It's really hard. And if you're in this group, you're most likely an entrepreneur. So you're adding on that extra, I've got to get it done. I've got to get it done for myself while you're dealing with everything else. So what happens is we take this huge hit to our self-esteem, confidence, and self-worth. And the problem is those are the foundations of success. Because if you don't feel good about yourself, you're never going to feel like you're worthy to succeed. And that's absolutely unacceptable because you are so worthy. So I'm going to jump into the steps And we're going to talk about why they're so important. And the first one is, and I'll tell you, I have an acronym. I wrote a book about this. So this is the acronym. It's ATTACK. And the first one is authenticity. Authenticity is the biggest step because it is the hardest, right? It's vulnerability and being uncomfortable with things about yourself that you might not be open about. Authenticity is something that I just started maybe 7 years ago. Quick story. Every one of these steps has a quick story. So this quick story is, I lived in Atlanta, and I'm in Maine right now, and I can't wait to get back to Atlanta, but I will tell you, I have never met a larger community of people that aren't what they seem. You know, people portray themselves as what they're not, and everything is fancy and shiny and pretty and expensive looking. And when I got there, I felt like I had to do the same thing to fit in, right? So I bought the nice car and I dressed well, and my heels went from 3 inches to 4 inches so that I would fit in. Now, the problem is I was attracting people to me that weren't really like me. And it's really hard to be happy when you feel like you're not able to be yourself. So I made a decision that it was time for my vibe to attract my tribe. And I started being the real me. And granted, what I was doing at the time afforded a lifestyle of still having that car, right, and being able to wear nice shoes. But I started letting people see who I was. I would dress more like I like, with a great top and yoga pants. I would use language I normally use with people that I love, and that is, I curse, and that's just who I am as a person. So what I found is the more I was honest about who I was, and what I represented, the people that were coming into my life loved me for exactly that. And what a great reward that was. You know, what a huge boost to my confidence, right? Because now all these people I think are amazing think I'm amazing. So authenticity is the number one thing to get started. So one of the ways to start with that is to think about 3 traits that you're currently hiding from people. What are 3 things that you have about you that you think maybe wouldn't be accepted, and you're hiding them? And figure out how you can start working those things in, because you'll be amazed at how many other people have those same traits that might be hiding theirs. And when you open up yourself to your realness, you're allowing them to do the same thing. So as you heal, they heal. The second thing is thankfulness. And this isn't that toxic positivity. You have to be thankful, grateful, blessed. No, I think that's all kind of bullshit. Thankfulness is about just understanding that where you are is where you're supposed to be. The journey brought you here for a reason, and you're still here. When I moved to Atlanta, like I just mentioned, years ago, it was back in 2012, and I moved down with my husband and my son. And 5 days after we got there, my husband died completely unexpectedly from asthma. It completely destroyed me. My whole future was gone, right? So once I made it through the hardest part of that, I went through multiple years of just really being quite shattered. But then I started to think about the things that I still have. And I still had my son. And I still had my breath, because he died in the morning. So he wasn't allowed that breath. I still have my breath. I still have my heartbeat, and I still have opportunity. Does this mean that I'm happy every day? Nope. Does this mean that I don't cry regularly? Nope. Does this mean that I don't have an occasional pity party for myself? Nope. What I'm saying is, when something happens, or when it feels like things are just going wrong over and over and over again, go through it, feel it, have your pity party, grab a snack, but don't stay there. You've got to get past that part. And I'm not saying this about little things. I mean big things. Obviously losing my husband was big shit. It was huge, and it was years. But find the people that love you and your authenticity. and let them help you find the things to be grateful and thankful for. The next is trust. This isn't trust necessarily in other people, but trust in yourself. So when we don't feel good about ourselves, we don't feel like we're making the right decisions all the time, right? Do you find yourself as a woman saying, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? What do you think of this? You know, we ask our friends, our family members before we make decisions. Trust is huge. And a lot of women, I think it's like 25%, and I'm one of them, were sexually abused as children. And it's usually by somebody that knows you or is family. So you're shown that you're not valuable by the people who are responsible for making you feel valuable. So now you don't know what you can trust, what's real, what's not real. And as you get older, that becomes something that impacts all of your future relationships, whether they're work relationships, partner relationships, the relationship with yourself. So now, how do I make a decision on my own? So this is a hard thing to do, but there are 3 very finite steps you can take to start trusting yourself and your own decisions. 3 things. The first one, listen to your heart. So when you're thinking about something, you don't know how to make a decision, your heart is going to tell you what you desire. It's going to tell you what you really want. Listen to that. It's important. The second is to listen to your gut. Your gut is your 6th sense. And with women, it is so important. That is literally a thing for us. You know, we know when something's off, right? We know when something's going to happen. Have you ever been somewhere and something tells you don't leave yet? It's don't leave. And you're just like, why do I feel like I can't leave right now? Well, I'll just wait a few more minutes. And then you leave and you drive past an accident. That's your gut. Your gut is your survival skill, and it will always try to keep you safe. The third thing is your head. So you take the answers your heart gave you and the answers that your gut gave you, and you kind of mix them all up in a soup bowl and have your head look at it, because we've learned as we've grown up what's right, what's wrong, what's really a good decision and what isn't. We have that power to make that decision if we just take the time. So the next big decision that you have to make, don't involve a bunch of other people. If you have one trusted person, which I have like my best friend and sometimes my husband, run it by them some, but make the decision yourself, because you can do it. You are absolutely able to trust yourself. And once you start to learn to trust yourself more, it'll be easier to figure out who you can and can't trust out there. The next one is acceptance. So as you guys can see, I have delightfully juicy cheeks. I am a fat girl. And the thing about being a fat girl is you are shamed for it your whole life. As a child, as a middle-aged woman, I assume as I'm older maybe, I just don't care anymore. Like, you have to understand who you are and what you are meant to be. You don't have to be in love with how you look right now. Some people are not comfortable being overweight or having gray hair, or there's so many things that make us uncomfortable about ourselves. But you need to accept who you are as you are, because you're amazing. And if it's something you can change slowly, then absolutely do that. But in that time frame, understand you're not just your hair. You're not just your body weight, your waist size. You're not just your eye color. And you're not, especially right now, I'll tear up about this because I'm in a mixed relationship. So you're not just your skin color. You are fucking amazing just the way you are. And accepting yourself that way and then deciding to make changes, that's up to you. I actually have a few steps for that too. Bear with me for just a second. I got emotional because I get emotional when I talk about that part. So one of the things that you can do is make a list of what you feel like is keeping you from loving yourself, whatever that is. Make the list and say, is this something I can change? And if it's not something you can change, force yourself to make a list of why That is such an important thing about you. And then you'll find it's actually one of your strengths. The next thing is competition. We are so competitive as entrepreneurs and women. It's just who we are. It's how a lot of us are successful, but it is also a huge distraction. The only person that you should be competing with is the person that you see when you wake up in the morning. The person that you're looking at thinking, why haven't I gotten there yet? And I have done this in the past year, especially, you know, when everything kind of went to heck, I looked at other women like, how are you making this happen? How are you doing this? And I compared my beginning to their middle. It's natural, but sit in it for a second and then get it together. And remember, the only person you have to beat is the one you were yesterday, last week, last year, and set goals around who she was. That's healthy. The last step is knowing when to say no. This is a big one for me because when I was growing up, especially as the fat girl, I felt like I had to please everyone. I wanted to make everybody happy. So if somebody needed something from me, I was, yes, oh, absolutely, yes, absolutely. What I was doing was I was showing myself that I wasn't worthy of my time. Because time is the most expensive thing we have, right? Because we spend it and we never get it back. So every yes you give, you're giving your time, your most valuable resource. We do it as women because it's who we are. It's also a kick in the self-esteem. It is such a downer to your own empowerment to be saying yes all the time when you want to say no. So I'm going to go through some of the things that you can ask yourself when somebody asks you for help, or if you could do something that you're questioning, if you really, do I really want to do this? Am I saying yes because I want to? The first question is it going to bring you joy? Will you get joy from doing this? Maybe yes, maybe no. Factor that into your answer. The second is, do I have the time? Because a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we learn, we're these gorgeous swans on the water, and underneath we're like, and people can't see that, but you know how much you're paddling. And if you don't have time to help, you can't give them 110% anyway. So just say no. The next thing is energy. Especially now, a lot of us are struggling mentally and emotionally. Do you have the energy to help this person? Do you have the energy to give them what they need and do it in a way that it is the quality that you would want to give? And if you don't, just say no. Just say no. The next is impact. So let's say it's not really going to bring you joy per se, and you don't really have the time and you're lacking in energy, but you're going to make an impact. Impact will bring you joy. Impact will make time worthwhile, and impact will help feed your energy. So if it's going to make an impact, just say yes. The next is your moral compass. Never. This doesn't even require an explanation or an analogy. If it's against your moral compass, just say no. There's never a time that you should ever have to compromise your core being to help somebody else. Another one is, will it hurt you, a family member, or embarrass a family member, embarrass you? Is it something that you wouldn't want heard, seen, known that you did 5 years down the road? Would it be a problem if your kids found out about it? If you answer yes to any of those questions, go back up to the top of the list and go back down, because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to want to move forward with a yes. It's important to make sure that you do things that make you happy. I know that's such a stupid little cliche. That saying, do what makes you happy, do more of what makes you happy. I'm going to say, do more of what makes you happy to keep you from doing the things that you feel are obligations. And I don't mean things like, cooking dinner or the laundry. I have just understood that those obligations, when I got married and I had children, they're on me, and it's okay. But the other obligations that you feel you have, they're not really. That's just someone else putting pressure on you. And knowing when to say no is going to help you take your power back. So I want to end. I just have another couple minutes left. on how I look at women. Some of you may have heard of the Japanese art of Kintsugi. Kintsugi is when a valuable piece of pottery or glass is broken, and they take that piece and then they put it back together with melted gold. So what was once broke and is now more beautiful. And that's you. We have all been broken. We have all been touched by at least one of the injustices that happen to women. And if you could just sit back and think of the things that broke you, made you who you are. They made you more empathetic. They made you more understanding. They made you more loving. They made you more able to feel. And just imagine yourself being filled up with that gold, because it is those things. It's like your own, like a lampshade. You know, the lampshades that are made with stained glass? That's you. All of your breaks are filled with gold. And when the light hits you, you are absolutely gorgeous. So thank you so much for the time that you guys have given me. And I know I'm a couple minutes early, but if Haley has a question or I can answer.
That was just beautiful. Broken but beautiful. It's such a thing. Thank you for sharing with us today. It's an honor to have you here. I really appreciate it.
Me too. I appreciate being able to come on. I hope you all have a fantastic week. Hey, and it's Taco Tuesday.
It is May the 4th as well.
And yes, May the 4th be with you for Taco Tuesday.
Exactly. Right. And tomorrow is Cinco de Drinko.
If you stay up till midnight, you can do Cinco de Mayo. So there you go.
Absolutely. Sounds like this week is going to be one long party.
Yes, I'm all for it. I need it. We all need it.
We do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for joining us today. This has been an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
I'm going to bump you down and then pull up our next speaker. Yay! Hey, Khara.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm loving what the speakers have to say. It's kind of a hard act to follow. Melissa's fantastic.
I do these WEN-Talk events, and I get to sit here and listen while y'all are speaking, and I'm just like, just pour some more into me, please. I'll just take more of that. Yes, some more of that and some more of that. So I love listening to these events, and afterwards we chop them up and put them all out on YouTube, because we're streaming live to YouTube, but we break up the individual presentations, and it's so much fun to go back and listen to them.
Right. And definitely to see all of them after this, it'll be fun to revisit. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So with that, I'm going to hand you the stage. Welcome, Khara. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. I guess I'll take it away. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in today. I'm going to talk to you about a question that came up for me, and I think you all can relate. The question is, what if your work is your self-care? We're having lots of conversations about self-care and burnout and languishing and mental health crises. And as a mental health clinician myself, I know this continues to come up. So what occurred to me is the question of, what if work is your self-care? Now I want to get to the story of where that came from. But first, I want you to know who I am and why I'm talking about this. So in addition to being a mental health therapist, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've struggled with perfectionism, I've struggled with workaholism, and I'm a type 3 on the Enneagram. So for a lot of you who thought the Enneagram was life-changing like I do, you're like, oh, that kind of makes sense why perfectionism and workaholism is a factor. It's one of the edges. So I want you to imagine that as I struggled with putting work first over relationships and definitely putting self-care on the back burner, but I had to learn this the hard way with my own burnout journey and recovery. But not only that, as a perfectionist, I want things to go well the first time around, which is obviously something that's been challenged with COVID and this pandemic. Lastly, as a type 3 on the Enneagram, I'm a performer. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm happiest when creating and doing new things. And some of you as viewers might relate to that as well. So that's a snapshot of me. Let's talk about this question. What if work is your self-care? I want to take you back to last fall, where I was able to, fortunately, see a bunch of other powerhouse women in a business retreat, in a safe way, of course, with the pandemic. And we were sitting there in the beautiful Colorado mountains. Just very scenic, fresh air, a chance to regroup, a chance to reconnect after feeling isolated for so long. In that setting, they said, Khara, we want you to facilitate a goals exercise. I'm like, of course, this is my bread and butter. I love setting goals. I love lists. Who doesn't? So I'm sitting there preparing to present this to 6 other women and saying, how do I make this worth their while? So for those of you who've seen me talk on the WEN network before, you've heard this exercise before, which is the Go Lean on Lists exercise. So I sat these women down and I said, I want you to think about those 6 months that we have coming up and what you want to accomplish in those 6 months. Could be personal, could be professional. All things are important. Start writing down what's coming to mind. So as we're sitting in this scenic setting, they're doing this. They're thinking about their goals for the next 6 months. From there, I challenged them. I said, okay, what are your top 10 priorities? If you're a driven professional, which many of the viewers here are, maybe you had dozens of things on this list by the time you were done. But what are the top 10 priorities? So I had them circle them, and then we went into a vulnerability exercise of saying, okay, here are my top 10. Let's share them out loud, and how can we support each other? Are we an accountability buddy? Are we holding them to some sort of measurable goal amidst that 10 priorities? So people are going around the room and sharing that, and it's wonderful, right? We're holding space for each other, we're supporting one another, and it's feeling measurable, which of course, as a type 3, I love. So then it gets to my turn. I'm excited, I'm enthusiastic, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so many things, but here are the top 10. And I start rattling off, I want to do a TED Talk, I want to write a 3rd book, and I want to become an Amazon bestseller. That's just like the top 3. And they're like, great, that makes sense, Khara. You're a type 3 Enneagram, totally makes sense. But then the question, a colleague of mine looks at me and she's like, Khara, these are wonderful. These totally make sense of who you are and what you want to do. But what's the end goal? What's the end goal of doing all these things? And I sat there and I felt my heart beating out of my chest because I was like, I don't know if I have an end goal. Nothing's coming to mind. She's looking at me expectantly and I'm like, nothing's coming up. And I started to panic. I started to feel super self-reflective, but also like on a pedestal and in front of them going, I don't know what to say. I don't know what my answer should be. And so I had to embrace the vulnerability of saying, I don't have an answer for you. Can I get back to you? As I felt this emotion stuck in my throat and I felt my heart beating out of my chest. And they're like, okay, Khara, get back to us. Now, luckily, 2 days after the retreat, she texts me and she goes, Khara, I owe you an apology. I'm like, why? And she goes, well, I followed society's expectations. I expected that there should be an end goal. That's what society tells us to do. She's like, but what if the process, the actual process is what's enjoyable to you? And if that's true, that's a beautiful thing. And all of a sudden I could take a breath because she was saying that it was okay to not have an end goal, that the process of being in the business and doing the projects and doing the things I enjoy is worth it. And some of you can relate to that as driven entrepreneurs. So then she sends me this quote, and it says, the fruits of a fulfilling life, happiness, confidence, enthusiasm, purpose, and money are mainly the byproducts of doing something we enjoy with excellence rather than the things we can see directly. And that quote's from Dan Miller. So my colleague gave me this gift. Not only could I feel my shoulders come down and I could finally take a full breath, but she was saying maybe it's not about the end goal. Maybe it's the journey, or in this case, the projects. So that led me to this question of what if work is my self-care? Because the working elements of being an entrepreneur, being your own boss, the hope is that you get to enjoy some of the things you do. So let's talk about this. The famous quote is, if you do something you love, you never have to work a day in your life. Hard eye roll for lots of us, because as entrepreneurs and small business owners, it is absolutely work. It's not effortless, but the hope is that we actually feel invigorated or inspired or filled up by some of the things we get to do. So it's not all hard work, but it's definitely work. Most of us are fighting against that statistic of being one of the small businesses to fail in the first 5 years, things like that. So I can tell you all that I particularly enjoy creating. I definitely feel filled up by creating things. It's probably why I am seen in my community as someone who's kind of steamrolling ahead, always creating something, which can be part of that challenge of what's the end goal. Because some of us just enjoy creating new things and getting that inspiration. The challenge, of course, is narrowing it down to those top 10 goals and staying focused, right? So with this, I found myself embracing creativity and my serial entrepreneurness, not that that's a word, a little bit more, and saying, okay, I don't always have to have an end goal. Sometimes the process is fine. So how does this compute to other creatives out there, people who are watching this video? You might identify as a creative entrepreneur yourself, so you get it. You understand that we get our best ideas while driving, taking a shower, maybe at 4 a.m., just like wide awake, brain is on. Maybe you relate to that because that's true for a lot of us. So if creating is your happy space, how do we make more of that? Well, Adam Grant was one of the people to say that we need to create 20% of our work week to be creative. Now, some of you as driven professionals are like, where do I fit that in? How do I make creative space a possibility? And yet, for so many of us, that's what makes us feel happy and restored, which is how it can become self-care. So he would say in his book, Originals, that if we have 20% of our work week carved out, that we can make this happen. In fact, he references like Gmail was one of the things that was created by having the space to be creative. Some of these best projects that are streamlined and have made our lives better is because we've carved out time for that. So the question for this group is, where do you fit that in? Are you creative mostly in the morning because you're nice and rested? Are you creative at night and you're a night owl and you do your best work at 12, 1, 2 in the morning? Maybe you're wide awake at lunchtime and that's the best time to work on projects. So just asking yourself that question can narrow it down to make it where work can be more closely connected to self-care. Is figuring out when you're creative. Now, I recognize for a lot of you that you're like, okay, this sounds good, but how do I actually put this into practice? So here's a second exercise for you to consider. If you really want to make creativity a part of your experience, you need to figure out things that need to move off your plate or have a different kind of schedule. So here's exercise number 2. Give up control. Yikes, a little hard for us control freaks, type 3s, type 1s on the Enneagram. We're like, oh, I don't want to give up control. But here's what the exercise actually looks like. I want you to think about your daily tasks. Write them down. What do you do on average every single day? What do you do on average every single week? Start writing down a column of those things in the week and a column of things in the day. Here's part 2. Now I want you to consider ranking them. On a scale of 1, completely hate it, not enjoyable at all, and 10, love this part of your business. Maybe you love the marketing, but hate the reconciliation of your billing. Maybe you don't like marketing, but you love connecting with new entrepreneurs or your customers. So think about all those things from the daily and the weekly checklist. Rank them on a scale of 1 to 10. The challenge here, and this might not be immediate for a lot of you, but as you rank them, notice what's 6 and above. If 6 and above means that you actually enjoy it or get something out of it, we want to keep that stuff. We want that to be part of our tasks. But what about those 5 and below? That means you're not really getting much joy. If anything, you're neutral, or you're down at 1, 2, and 3, and you're not enjoying it at all. The end goal for you down the road might be to actually delegate it, give it to someone else to do, hire someone or contract with someone to do that thing. I know that's a big ask for a lot of people who are just building their businesses or already feeling overworked, but to delegate some of those things off of your plate gives you the space for creativity. You now have time because you've said someone else is going to handle this and maybe they enjoy it or you don't. So that's a second exercise to actually carve out that time for creativity. So how does this compute to self-care? Self-care is this thing that we've been talking about through the pandemic, but it was obviously there before the pandemic started. So when you hear the word self-care, what do you think about? Well, maybe you're thinking about the commercialized things, vacations, manicures, pedicures, massages. Unfortunately, not only are those things that cost money or time, but they weren't even available to many of us through the pandemic. So then all of a sudden, our go-to things aren't even on the table. So for some of you who've seen me talk in other videos, you've heard me say we need to redefine self-care. We need to redefine it as rest versus restoration. So rest we're doing relatively okay. I mean, if you're a workaholic, this is a challenge. Maybe you only have productivity, you need something in the morning, then you can rest for the rest of the day. Depends on the person. But let's just say that rest is things like not having anything to do on the weekend. Maybe you're staying in your sweats. Maybe you're binge watching a show, not leaving the house, that kind of thing. So for the most part, people know how to rest. They can do that, kind of being idle. Maybe rest is getting 8 to 9 hours of sleep, which, fun fact, people always assume that I don't get enough sleep. And I absolutely and proudly get 9 hours. So it's possible. You can do great things and get good sleep. So that's the rest side of it. What about restoration? This is where it gets really interesting and creative for creative entrepreneurs and the clients that I serve. Because when I say what restores you, what invigorates you, what energizes you, the answers to that question don't always compute back to that commercialized self-care. Yes, a massage might be nice, but does it really restore you? For some, yes. For some, no. So what would be your answer to the question of what restores you? Now, I get it. Some of us have had brain fog. This pandemic's been really challenging from that mental health lens. And so maybe you're feeling a little bit stuck. But this is where I've encouraged people to think back to the things they had in childhood. Maybe it's something you haven't done for years, but all of a sudden feels playful and lighthearted and accessible in the pandemic. Maybe the examples are you're having a picnic, you're going to the park, you're playing with your dog, you're dancing around the house, you're cooking and baking again. Maybe these things feel more accessible. And lo and behold, now we can actually do self-care because it doesn't take a lot of money or a lot of time. So think for a moment about what can be restorative for you. The restoration and playfulness is what allows creativity to happen. And if we frame it this way, the question of is work your self-care? It could be part of the equation. Because what's restorative in your business? Maybe you feel restored being your own boss, setting your own schedule. Maybe you feel restored when you pay off some debt or reconcile your books or connect with other partners or entrepreneurs. If that's restorative for you in the hard work that you're doing, maybe this is a question we can answer. Maybe work is a part of self-care, not the whole part, but maybe a part of it. So with that in mind, I want to challenge you on some of these beliefs, right? It's not just self-care or nothing, or work and work-life balance. Like there's this messy mix of things that we're trying to figure out, especially in this pandemic. What does it look like to have work-life balance, to fight off workaholism that's been part of this COVID equation the whole time? Have you guys noticed we're much more workaholic now than ever because we don't have work-life separation. People are working from home. So it's a lot of food for thought, but I think it's going to empower those creative entrepreneurs out there that are like, I like to work. It makes me happy. To have an end goal, which is like to be on a beach or retire, is not my end goal in my mid-30s. I have lots more I want to give. And maybe that resonates with some of you. So is there a part of work that is part of your self-care? I would say yes. Circling back to that quote, if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life. Not true from this talk. But if you do something you love and it brings you joy and you do it with excellence, that I think we can do. And that's what I have for you guys. I hope this resonates.
It totally resonates. I heard somebody, I didn't hear somebody typed to me and said, Khara's a badass.
Well, thank you. This is something I've been chewing on. So I know you and Haley, you and I talked about this offline. So
yeah. And for me, I am such a workaholic, but it's where I choose to be. It's the life I've chosen to build.
Right. It's like that's your balance. And people don't realize that. They think it's all or nothing thinking. And there's so much gray.
Mm-hmm. Life is a very, very gray kind of thing, just in general. So if somebody wanted to find you, how would they go about finding you?
Oh, gosh. Well, I'm on LinkedIn. I've got perfectioner.com, which is our website for the book that we reference these 2 exercises. I have a unique spelling to my first name, so you guys can find me through that. But yes, reach out. I'd love to support people through burnout and reworking workaholism so it does look more balanced, because I think there is value in work and there is value in rest.
Awesome. Very cool. And, I think it's just really interesting to see that, balance in work and rest and play. So, if somebody is really, really, really struggling with this idea of it's all or nothing, it's very black and white. What is the usual first step that shows them or can kind of get them off that, talk them off the ledge of it's totally black or white?
Yeah, I think the first thought that came up is having them think about this from the lens of a family member or close friend, mm-hmm. and be like, would they think this was black and white? How would we know? What did they do? Or maybe someone they admire. What did they do that makes you think black and white is the answer? You see all these influencers and amazing celebrities and people in business who are kicking ass and taking names, and they're figuring it out, but it's probably not black and white. There's not a person, shaking their fingers saying, oh, you're working too much. They're deciding.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And isn't it kind of interesting how the way we perceive things and the way that everybody else perceives that same thing are very different.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I don't think there's one answer. If I was working with someone from a clinical or burnout recovery lens, I'd probably say, let's start with something small that gets them that moment of joy or giddiness or happiness or belly laugh, something that almost proves to them that it's worth doing. Mm-hmm. Some good endorphins in there, maybe. But, starting small, because most of the people I work with are driven professionals and they're like, I don't have time for that. I can't do a 10-minute walk. And I'm like, okay, how about a 5-minute walk? Something, get some movement in there.
Right. And what is that usually that first like, okay, so people are like, I can't do a 10-minute walk. I can't do this. I can't do that. Because I know I've definitely been there.
Yeah. I think my favorite one right now is to say, okay, maybe you're just standing up here from the computer and you're stretching and you're just playing a song. So most songs are between 3 and 5 minutes, hopefully. And so that feels like, okay, it's a natural timer. Play the song, stretch, move around, dance around, use the restroom, whatever. So then come back rather than just like steamrolling through. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
So when there's music attached, they seem to actually appreciate that better than, oh, go outside, walk around the block. Like that feels like more effort, even though it's not.
Right. Yeah. It's funny how that happens. I remember being at Duke and in my second term, and the second term at the time when I was getting my MBA was like the bad one. It was financial accounting, statistics, and macroeconomics.
Ooh, wow, what a load.
It was a doozy of a load, right? And you're taking 3 classes in the term and you're working full time and you're doing all that stuff. And all of us kind of hit that wall of, oh my God. And, when you have that professor who literally wrote the book, and they're determined to not quite mop the floor with you, but like push you as far as they can.
Yeah.
It's really quite the experience. And I remember that my bathrooms have never been so clean before or since.
That was how you translated all that energy is into cleaning your bathroom. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Isn't it funny how these things express differently for different people?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I just, I've always found that funny because I knew I was doing it at the time. And I, recognized it. I appreciated it. I honored it at the time. I still find it mildly humorous that my bathrooms have never been so clean.
Right. It was a time in your life and that time has passed. Yes.
Not that I don't clean my bathrooms, but, this was the get in there with a toothbrush and.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's part of that giving up control, but also like, is that self-care? Is that obligation? Or if it has to be done? I have a couple of people struggling with that question of like, does this bring me joy? No, but then there's like a relief or a less anxiety if I have it clean. So we're balancing all of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. So people can find you at perfectioner.com.
Yep. That would be it.
That would be you. That is so awesome. I am so glad that you were able to join us today and take time out of your hectic and super busy, crazy schedule. So thank you so much for this.
Yeah. Thank you, Haley, for having me.
It's, Khara's a badass. I heard that from somebody. So glad you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well, we are on to our next speaker. And this is Erika Gimbel. And I think you might sense a trend today. And what's really funny is that I didn't actually try to do this. I kind of wound up with all of this fun, like trend setting. It just kind of happens on its own. Kind of fun. Thank you, Khara.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome, welcome. So happy to have you here.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
Is there, should I turn off that light in the back of me?
You are good.
I'm good. Okay. Hi.
You are good. I can see you quite well. Thank you. Yep. And I'm going to actually give you the stage. Welcome, Erika. And so happy to have you here. And I am going to just minimize myself, but I'll be here the whole time.
Okay. You can never minimize yourself, really.
Okay. Well, in the computer sense, I'm going to go hide in the corner.
Go hide. No, nobody puts baby in the corner.
Very true.
Well, I'm really happy to get to be on your stage today, Haley. I love what you created with your summit, and it was so fun to tune in. And I still haven't had a chance to catch up on the recordings and the rebroadcast, but there's just so many great speakers. I was so inspired and excited to get to play with you. So I'm really happy to be with you all today. I'm Erika. I'm in the Bay Area. I am in Oakland on Ohlone land. And just recently, I found this website. I was in a trauma training. I've been assisting with trauma trainings for like a decade now with a Hakomi lens. And this website, it's nativeland.ca is the website, I believe, or natives-land.ca. And no matter where you are in US of A, you can look up where you are, what lands that is of the First Peoples, the First Nations. And so I had a chance to do that and look up where I'm on. I am on Ohlone land. So it's kind of a fun thing to do, to check out. And I could put it here in the chat for you all, and you can check it out, native-land.ca. So anyway, that perspective, I'm a psychotherapist. I'm here in the Bay Area, right? And I'm working with a lot of people who are stressed, who are anxious, who are depressed, who are traumatized by what this year has brought to them. Many of them have really seized the moment. And oh yeah, I see that you put that up on the screen. Cool. It's a really cool site. So but first and foremost, I love when I work with people. I'm just going to share some tips from all the work I've done as a therapist and a licensed marriage and family therapist, and also a New York State licensed massage therapist. I was thinking that right now I could share my tips and tricks for sanity in challenging times, or I like to use this word, defragglement. I have actually a page on my website that's called Defragglement, and that's sort of taken from, you remember that show with Muppets that was called Fraggle Rock? That show is from my childhood, and they're always singing about something, those little Muppets, Fraggle Rock. And that term is actually also Fraggle, defraggle. That term comes from actually like a tweaker term, like somebody who might be coming off of some kind of drug, detoxing off of a drug. It's also used with that. So I have this website that, and that page I use to support people who are coming back from rattling places. It doesn't have to be like Burning Man. It could be this time. It could be this year, this wild and crazy year we've been having. And so one of my top tricks is, besides figuring out where you are on the earth and honoring to the place you are, it's amazing the perspective, the kind of the brain perspective of noticing where you are on the land, but also just taking a moment to just breathe and to slow down and you can call it meditation, you can call it mindfulness, you can call it paying attention to right now. So I was thinking that we could just kind of do that right now and just see what happens, when you slow down and pay attention to right now. And I'm just going to literally do that with you. If you're watching this, you're tuning in, let's just slow down for a second and let's just see what happens. Okay. So for those of you who've never meditated before, mindfulness before, it's just literally watching your breath go in and out. Like that's all it is. And you can close your eyes or keep them in a soft focus. So many of us are looking at the screens these days, like looking. So I would love to guide you to just bring your eyeballs back into your head. And if you feel comfortable, close your eyes or soft focus and just literally allow your eyes to fall back into the sockets. And let's just breathe for like a minute or two. And we're always breathing, but just like with the focus of breathing. So let's try that together. And I'm gonna the sound of my voice might be supportive to you right now. So that inhale and watching the inhale, and that exhale, watching your exhale. And your breath might take you a longer time or shorter time. I was just swimming earlier today, and it takes a little time to get into the rhythm of watching your breath, especially while you're swimming. And so, if you could respond to me, I have no idea if I'll be able to hear from anybody watching this, but you're so welcome to leave comments and I'll find how I can respond. But this idea of watching your breath and letting things expand as you watch your breath. And there may be thoughts, there may be feelings, there may be sensations in your body. Like I was like, am I going to live to get across this pool? Just notice all of that and it's like sending it down the river as you watch your breath. So it's a little bit like, playing the piano with two hands, and one hand's doing one thing, one hand's doing the other. So you're breathing and you're focusing on your breathing. And then there's this other things that might be flying through, and you're just letting them go down the river. I have lots of metaphors here, you can see. So letting the thoughts, the feelings, the sensations, take note of them and then send them down the river. So that's one of my, super tips. Mindfulness, paying attention is so helpful during this time. You must be present to win. So let yourself play with mindfulness, and it's really helpful. Okay. The other thing I like to suggest during these very unique and profound, challenging times is to make sure you're moving your body in whatever way you can. The best exercise is the one you do, whatever that is. So I have gotten a chance to get back into swimming nearby me. A pool has opened up, but I also love to do other things like yoga and Pilates, and I play ultimate frisbee, and I am involved with a triathlon team. And that's just me. That's my energy. I love to do that. My body craves that. But for you, you might just be someone who likes more subtler movement protocols, like this Feldenkrais or other movements that are not that big, because physically you can't do that big of a thing. That's okay. You can do exercise in your mind, and allowing yourself to actually imagine those movements. That is a kind of workout for yourself. This guy, Moshe Feldenkrais, who created this Feldenkrais technique, been to many of these kinds of classes. Literally, that imagining yourself moving your body is just as good, if not better, than actually doing the movement. But what does movement do? What does movement do? Okay, so, in this time, we need to move our body for allowing all of ourselves to get going. Also, movement is really good for opening up possibilities. Like switching things up. Like if you're kind of stuck in a rut, which many people feel like that, getting out for a walk just in your neighborhood, or if you have some woods or water nearby to walk by, that can really be beautiful for changing things up. Like just like breathing can really change things up. So I wanted to share that with you. Let me check out my other notes. Oh yes, have a sense of humor. Where's your sense of humor? How can this be kind of something that you can laugh at? Things can get really intense. There's really big feelings that people have in these times where we're definitely all adjusting. And can there be some humor? Can there be some chuckling? Who here is sheltering in place alone? I am. And it is really, I am hilarious by myself. Like I make myself crack up all the time. And I crack up with my clients. I crack up with when I teach my classes. And, I think of this time as a really amazing, profound way to work your material, as if we all could become future stand-up comics, or as if we all could become speakers on different kinds of stages. Like this is such an unusual stage we have, and it's only going to keep expanding all these different kinds of ways we can share ourselves with the world. So have that sense of humor. Your story is all unique to you, and it's actually it could bring a sense of humor to others. So definitely find people to connect with. What's your way of connecting? That's another amazing tip, is like, what is your right amount of connecting? If you have more introverted energy, what is the way that you best like to connect with others? And notice what your boundaries are. Notice what is too much connecting. Like for me, I have really gotten into watching the Jimmies. like Lady Gaga said, is like she got the jimmies for some big event she was doing, right? So I think I have a little too much of the jimmies in my life. So I've been cutting myself back from watching them, because you could just like watch and watch and watch and watch. But then if you pull it back, oh, I have freed myself up to get ready for my talk here today with you guys. So boundaries, that's another amazing super tip. How do you practice your boundaries? Like, where do you need to cut yourself off from certain things that are not really serving you, like too much TV or too much drinking or too much, whatever your vice is, because when you free yourself up from that thing, that's sort of like this tune out, all this energy gets freed up to create. So I've been teaching this Crouching Tiger, Hidden Artist, which is my fun title for going through the Artist's Way, which is such a beautiful resource. If you haven't seen this book, definitely it's time to get it. It's a over 25-year-old book. I had a chance to take the class with the author, Julia Cameron, back in New York when I lived there. And one of her super tips is to journal and to put all your worries, your cares, vent onto the piece of paper, onto the journal. And she suggests writing 3 pages every morning. Now, sometimes your morning pages become nighttime pages because just stuff's going on. But what I find, or what I found with watching my students blossom in this class and uncover their own inner creator, so many things got percolated. People were giving talks. They'd never given talks before. Somebody in my class who was streaming in from Maine, she wrote a little one-woman show. It was amazing to see what she created. So, you might not think of yourself as a blossoming artist, but it's a great experiment to play with it and to see what you're jonesing on, to see what actually excites you, to take yourself on artist dates. That's actually a homework assignment from the Artist's Way. And I encouraged and had my students taking that on, like, what is your artist date? What delights you? So finding those delights, finding what makes you curious, that really helps open up possibility where there wasn't possibility. I like to think of it as, if you're stuck on the New York City subway when there was rush hour before the pandemic, and like having a little thigh separator, like, because you're getting smashed up on the, I hope you're laughing if watching this. If you're smashed up against somebody at rush hour in New York before the pandemic, it's a visual, and then suddenly you get in this little thigh separator to separate yourself. So that's what this does, is doing morning pages, going for artist dates, for looking for synchronicities. Now, what the heck is a synchronicity? Okay, so if any of you know the Artist's Way book, there are birds on the Artist's Way book. I don't think I have it right here nearby. Oh, yes, I do. I have if I take a little walk over to the other side of my room, I could show you the Artist's Way books. All the Julia Cameron books have birds on their books. And look what happens to be on my wall behind me. You see those birds, and that's a Slovakian bird over there. Yeah. So anyway, that synchronicity, it's kind of like the universe is saying, here you go. Yes, you should do this thing. Or yes, please go do that thing. So looking for synchronicities is a wonderful thing to do. And it's a way to tune in to the frequencies that are happening. When you say yes to your artist self, you are waking up your own creative impulses and urges to be a creator. And then things start happening, like my birds, because the birds were on that Artist's Way book. Now, you may think that's a little out there, but notice how things start to line up when you're in the flow, when you're writing, when you're creating, when you're dreaming. That's another thing. What are your dreams? What are your, like, if I only could, if I only could do fill in the blank, For some, it's, if I only could play that guitar, if I could only, play that instrument, if I only could write that book. How many of you want to write your book? So writing down morning pages helps you kind of get yourself cleared out for all that you are up to as a creator. So I like to think of it like super self-help, to be in that flow as a writer, as a writer in progress, you know? So those are some of my super tips. I would love to talk to you. If anybody has questions, reach out to me. And, you know, this is the spring here in the Bay Area, and we have a very long spring. I mean, since like the end of January, spring is coming. And that leads me to think of another super tip is, are you eating 9 to 13 servings of fruits and vegetables every day? Lots of interesting studies have been done on this very concept of the more servings of plants you get in, the better you feel. You will improve your mood, your energy, your fitness, your sleep from eating that extra apple, broccoli, whatever it is. You know, a serving is about your fist size for fruits and vegetables. And so studies have shown that for every serving you get in, if you usually get 4 servings of fruits and veg in a day, if you get a 5th or a 6th, then you're going to feel a little better. And same thing for that 7th or that 8th serving of fruits and vegetables. So it's a no-brainer. I have this really great tracker. I'll see if I could put in the chat for you all to play with. And literally, you're just going to check off the apples for each serving you get in. And, you know, most people really struggle with getting in 7, 9 to 13. In Canada, supposedly it's double that amount. So what do they know that we don't know that we don't know? So more is better, and you're going to feel better. You're going to have your mood be improved by all that. So I hope I inspire you to go get that apple. There's like over 10,000 identified nutrients in apples. And the game's not over. There's still stuff they're figuring out about that apple and everything else. And I love to help people eat their nutrition and get more in, as opposed to the kind of a sad diet that so many people have. So I'm happy to share more about that with you. And what else do I want to share with you? I just shared so much information, so we can kind of come back to what we were talking about at the very beginning, is breathing. Let's just take a moment to kind of let that all settle. And I see you're back on the screen there. Hi.
Hi. Hello.
That was fun.
Cool.
It's fun to talk to myself. I wasn't exactly sure where to look on the screen, like, oh, I'm just talking to myself.
Yep. That's part of doing lives, is trying to look at the screen and look at the camera and know where to look at, you know, and put the dot on the screen so that you can look at the right spot on the screen. Some people will put a sticky note. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So this was great rehearsing for a gig I have this coming Friday with the Gather community. So I'm really excited about that, and it's free to register to come on over. And maybe you'll get to come over, Haley. I hope so.
Are you available? Would love to see you.
I am. I've got Tracy Root's event.
That's it.
Yep.
You're coming. Oh, good. Oh, good. It'll
Yep.
be so fun to have you. Well, I really appreciate this opportunity. And yeah, happy to.
Thank you so much. This has been awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All things.
Yeah, let's keep
You
connecting.
have your next speaker ready to go?
I do. Here she is. Hello.
Oh,
Hello.
Elizabeth.
Hey, Elizabeth. Hey. So I'm going
There you
to
girls.
switch people around and do the switcheroonies.
There we go.
So welcome. So happy to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. So Elisabeth is our last speaker for today's WEN-Talk. I'm so happy to have you here. And this is really an honor. And I am looking forward to hearing more from you about like your topics. And yeah, welcome to the stage. Thank you so much. And I'm going to, through the modern miracles of technology, let you have the stage.
Thank you. Good morning. It is a real pleasure to be here. I am Elisabeth Stitt of Joyful Parenting Coaching, where stressed out parents get the skills they need to create the happy and harmonious homes that they desire and deserve. Today's topic is 4 challenges modern parents face that keep them yelling and nagging and feeling guilty about their kids. If you are not a parent, this topic is still for you. Because if you are a boss or a manager or a solo entrepreneur who is dealing with customers and clients, and you don't have kids, or maybe they're grown and flown, it is super important to understand the ways in which parenting has changed and truly is harder than it used to be. I come to parenting coaching from 25 years of teaching. So a lot of the reason that I started parenting coaching was in response to the shift I was seeing, both in my students and in their parents. I have a frog in my throat. Give me a sec. All right, let's see if that does us a little bit clearer. So if you don't have kids, stick around and listen. I want you to understand what it is that your employees, your workers, your clients are experiencing so that you can meet them with more clarity and empathy. All right, we have 4 major challenges. The first challenge that we face today that makes parenting so much harder than it used to be is a lack of common values. We used to live in smaller and tight-knit communities, and we didn't have access to the internet. And so the information that we got was coming from actual people. So even if we lived in a big city, let's say we lived in New York City, maybe we had a church or synagogue community. And in having that community, we were hanging out with a group of people who tended to have similar values on how to do things. So if you were wondering, what's an appropriate time to put a 4-year-old to bed? When you then went to your Saturday services or your Sunday services, you could ask and you could say, you know, my 3-year-old, I always knew I put her to bed really early, but all of a sudden she's feeling like a really big girl and is wanting to stay up later. And I'm wondering, what is a good time to have her bedtime be? And you would get a pretty consistent answer. In the same way, if you were wondering whether or not to enroll your child in this program or that program, or to go to public school or private school, you would be finding people around you who had had the same questions and who had come up with answers and had also kind of looked around to see, what is everybody else doing? Oh, okay, it seems like this is the approach that people take. So that is what I'm going to do. So in having a homogeneous community, you had fewer decisions to make yourself because you could look around and see like, that's what everyone's doing. That's what I'm going to do. Fast forward, and here we are in a world where not only can you go to the bookstore and find miles and miles of shelf devoted to parenting, you go online and you could hear a different podcast or summit interview or go clicking through or YouTube click. You could be watching 24/7 and you could do it without repeating yourself, without watching or hearing the same person talk. It is so prolific. And in some ways, that's fabulous, really fabulous that we've got so much at our fingertips. And on the other hand, it's terrifying and it's confusing. If you are a new parent and you are coming and you come to the internet with a problem and you type in your key search words, and now you have 127 things to check out. And as you check them out, you get 127 different pieces of advice, and they are all couched in the way that suggests that if you don't follow this advice right here, then that's it. You are going to ruin your child. Layer by layer by layer, in that way, we get weighted down with the expectation of what we should be doing, and yet we get contradictory advice, and so we don't know. All right, then, what is our solution to this? The counter to a lack of common values is to dig deep inside yourself. Sit down with a piece of paper and your favorite writing implement and start writing down things that you value. Remember, values are personal. They are not, it's not like the checklist of things you wished you could be or that your mother wants you to be. It's what you really, truly believe and really, truly keep coming back to. When we're living in alignment with our values, when we're feeling really good about what the choices we're making, that's how we know, by the way, that we're living in alignment with our values, then we've got flow. And as a parent, it means that when you're clear on your values, and what I suggest doing is writing the list as long as you can make it. Can you come up with 75 things you value? And in that way, you'll get the big things like maybe being respectful. But you'll get the little things too, like I really value a sharp pencil with a good eraser, right? There's something so powerful and inspiring about that, right? And I need to key into it, and that's a value, but that's a low-level value. For my kids, I want to identify what are my top 2, 3, 4, 5 values, and then I want to check with my parenting partner. And with luck, you're going to have some overlap. And where you have your overlap, that is where you should start hanging your hat. Now, when a new parenting decision comes along, you can say, of the choices that I've heard about, which most aligns with my value? And that will give you a way to move forward with confidence. And when we move forward with confidence, our kids are right there behind us, right? They don't fight us on things because we are absolutely confident that in our family, this is the way we do things. Doesn't matter that every other family on the block is doing something different. When we're confident about it, then that comes across. Challenge number 2 is a lack of community support. We used to have structures in place in society that supported family life. If you lived in a town, for example, where there was a factory and a lot of people in the town worked at the factory, everybody started work at a certain time. And at a certain time, probably 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, there was even a whistle that could be heard across the town that said, work is over. And workers started streaming home. And in that way, kids who were out playing knew it was time for them to start heading home. And because every other kid on the block, that goes back to our sort of common values, was headed home in the same direction. You didn't have a kid arguing like, well, why can't I stay at the park longer? Why can't I stay out longer? None of the other kids have to stay out any longer. Because as a parent, you knew, nope, come on, dinner's going to be on the table and we need to go. Between kind of 6 and 8 p.m., nobody scheduled anything, right? Yes, we still went to PTA meetings and town council meetings, and we still had choir practice. And those things tended to happen after the dinner hour. And the dinner hour was kind of sacred. And in the old days when the phone was attached to the wall and there was a cord, if it rang during dinner, you didn't answer it. You knew it was a telemarketer. And if it was somebody who really needed you, if it was an emergency, they would call back. So you had this sort of block of time where families were at home, they were together. You did not have tutoring sessions, violin lessons, dance rehearsals going on. My nephew is 14 and he's a singer and he sings in a choir. And when he was little, his choir rehearsal started at 7 p.m. on Friday night. Can you imagine 7 p.m. on Friday night? I mean, isn't Friday night, like Friday night in my house growing up was always game night and fun night and fun food night and like let things go and come together and here we are as a family. they can't do that because he has to be driven across town. You know, his mom and their dad are on their phones usually while he's at rehearsal, or they, you know, stop by Starbucks or something. That's not family dinner. That's not family time. And now that he's older, his class has been moved to 7 p.m. on Sunday nights, right? Right exactly when you might be wanting to kind of bring it in, get some focus. I love doing family meetings at like Sunday at 5 o'clock before dinner, maybe 4:30, 5 o'clock before dinner. Just to like, let's regroup for the week. Let's come together as a family. We've been doing our weekend activities. Let's come together and do it. Those things aren't happening anymore. Nothing is sacred anymore. There is no time when we are not there for business or for our kids' activities, right? Our phone ping, we need to return a text, we need to return a phone call, we need to write an email, we need to go post one thing online. Nothing says this is your family life. So it's up to you. Go back to your values and then set some clear parameters and priorities. And then say no. Hot tip. If you are a parent of an elementary school child and you find, okay, pre-COVID, that you were spending every weekend going to some kid's birthday party, you don't have to do that. Not only can you say no to the birthday party, your child can say no too. Because you want your child home some of the time for family time. So set whatever time is going to be your family time. Maybe 1 to 4 on Saturday afternoons. You are not doing anything else. So if that birthday party or that soccer game happens between 1 to 4 p.m., you're just going to say, no, we can't make that. That doesn't work for us. Thank you so much for inviting us, right? You can let people down gently, but you can also be super clear that, yeah, no matter how wonderful or lovely your event or activity, it's not going to happen. Yeah, weddings, births, funerals, I would make exceptions for that. Other than that, it's up to you as a parent to put the fence around your family time so that you are supporting your family, even if society is not supporting it, because they're supporting business. The third challenge is that we have come to a place in parenting where we put it on a pedestal and you have to be the perfect parent. Honestly, you know, best dad in the world didn't used to be such a hard title to get. All you had to do was love your kid and make sure that there was no blood. Scrape him up from the sidewalk if he hurt himself. And produce a reasonably polite, reasonably good citizen for the world. Today, to be the best dad in the world or the best mom in the world means that you have to have done a whole stack of things in order to know that you are your best parent, right? You're attending to their social, emotional, academic, health needs. Are they getting the right number of vitamins? Are they learning things in the right sequence? Are they not enraged, Freudian slip of some kind. Are they enrolled in the right class? I've had parents of 2-year-olds who, before they say to me, like, I need help with my kid because he's having these horrible tantrums, will give me the resume. They will say, you know, he can recite his letters. He knows his numbers to this. He knows his shapes and colors. He can build a block tower up 5 tower blocks. It's like nobody comes and says, oh, Elisabeth, I've got this great kid. He's so sweet and he's so funny and he's such a little snuggle bug and I love his sense of adventure. But lately he's having these tantrums. No, it's the academic checklist that we get. So challenge number 3 is parenting the checklist child. It's parenting a child where your number 1 priority is what is the college admissions, where your main filter is this going to help my child get into college? Not only is this incredibly stressful to you, because it puts a huge burden on you, to be responsible for every aspect of your child's life. It is an enormous disservice to your child. Enormous. You are treating your child as a project which needs to be managed, rather than a human being who's in progress, in a messy way probably. And sometimes they're going to shine, and sometimes it's going to look pretty muddy. And their journey is not one straight line. Their journey is going to be wobbly and up and down and here and there. And that's okay. So let's take that pressure off of ourselves. Let's give them more time. By structuring our family time, we get to say no to some things. So consider maybe that instead of having your child in 4 or 5 activities, you're going to focus on 1 or 2. And then use that extra time to connect with your child and to have faith and to trust that your kid is going to turn out just fine. Challenge number 4 is that kids don't have time to be kids. We used to come home from school and go out and play, right? Well, first of all, at school, kids had a lot more recess time. They had a morning recess, their lunch hour was longer, and then they had a break in the afternoon. So they were getting out and they were doing that physical running around and being active and exploring their environment. And equally important, they were spending time with other kids, relatively unsupervised, right? When your kids are out on the play yard, they are basically unsupervised. You've got one teacher or yard duty with way too many kids. And this is fabulous because it gives kids time to squabble with each other and to fight with each other and to have to negotiate things. And it is through that process that they learn a lot of the social, emotional interactions that help them to learn to be good sharers, to be good turn takers, to regulate their emotions and to not lose it. Because if they're going to cry every time that somebody says they can't play, they're just not going to get to play. And so they have to learn how to use their words and how to stand up for themselves. And they do all that out in this unsupervised play. Our kids are suffering from anxiety and depression for all of these reasons. Our lack of confidence, the fact that we are tied to our jobs more sometimes than we're tied to them, the fact that we are tied to them, but in a way which is pushing this agenda of attaining college admissions holy grail. And so it isn't in sync with their rhythm. It's not taking into account the child we have in front of us, as opposed to the child we wish we had in front of us, or we think we should have in front of us. And finally, we're just not getting enough run around playtime, downtime, explore the world time, hang out with other kids time. All of those activities, that laughter, that physical running, help to keep kids happy and healthy, right? When we're on screens too much, whether it's for gaming pleasure or social stuff, or whether it's for our online learning, our whole world becomes focused like this. Even our facial expressions, right? If we think of being open and ready to receive the world, and outside, we're looking up and everything's open. When we're on a screen, everything's like this. So that physiologically, we're saying our body, I'm not happy. You don't see very many people face the computer screen with a big smile on their face and, with big open shoulders and an open body and a raised up head. Physiologically, we are telling our body we're depressed, and it's having an effect. So these are the 4 challenges. Lack of common values. What should we be doing? A society that no longer supports parenting and supports families, but supports business. The incredible pressure to push our kids towards college. And so we're on this checklist all the time. Have they done this? Have they done this? Have they done this? And then finally, robbing our children of a childhood, not giving them time to play, So they don't get to do all those activities which actually help them mature and teach them how to interact in the world and to grow up in the world, right? We're doing a great job on the academic preparation, but all the other areas of development are lagging because those used to happen naturally, not with teachers and parents, but actually with kids playing with each other themselves. So that's it. Those are the 4 challenges that we face today that are making parenting so much harder than it used to be. But we can shift that. And as we come out of COVID and we return to normal, I want you to consider, what are some of the things that were easier during COVID, during sheltering in place, that we can bring forward, right? Can we bring forward some more family time? Can we bring forward some more play time, some downtime for some kids? Can we focus on something else in our kids? Maybe the fact that they're learning to cook, or that they figured out how to do the laundry, and not just their academics. That's it, Haley. 4 challenges modern parents face.
Awesome. I think I've done all of them at least 4 times because I have 4 kids.
Yeah, exactly.
And none of them are ever the same.
Yeah, no, none of the kids are the same. So you don't get the same set of problems. No.
No.
The sort of broad strokes are things that we can deliberately shift.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And thank you so much for doing this today. I really appreciate it. And thank you for being our last speaker today and bringing such an awesome perspective. I appreciated the miles and miles of shelves, of books devoted to parenting, and every single one of them basically telling you you're doing it all wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
Love
hopefully you're finding people in your life who are reassuring you that, well, first of all, we can promise ourselves that no matter how well we do, we're going to have failed our child in some way. They're going to have some reason to go do their own personal growth work.
Absolutely.
Right? And on the other hand,
I take it as a challenge to screw my children up perfectly.
yes, there you go. Well, thanks, Haley.
Thank you, Elisabeth. I appreciate it. And thank you guys so much for watching today and hanging out with us. Bye.